Hey, it's Captain C.A. from Flats Class YouTube. Today we're going to learn a lot about lure color. Does it matter for inshore anglers? Well, I'm here to tell you because most of our fishing is in 1 fathom or less. You math whizzes, that's less than 6 feet. It matters a lot. All colors are in play. So we're going to make a move, go inside the studio, which I've made some market improvements in there, and I'm going to talk about several scenarios and make you a little bit more aware of how to have a lure selection system. Check it out. This episode of Flats Class YouTube is brought to you by Aquatraction, your go-to solution for advanced marine flooring. How do you choose from all these colors? Lord. All right. A inshore color selection system. What does that actually mean? Well, basically, all I want to do is make you aware that color matters. It truly does matter. And when I hear guys talk about, oh man, I don't think color matters at all. I think profile and size of bait and tempo mean more. Well, that's another YouTube video. But for color, in my opinion, like I said when I was walking through the shop before we came in here, I think it has a lot of relevance. And the reason why is because most of us that fish inshore waters are fishing water that's 6 feet or shallower. Now, some of us do get to fish water up to 12 feet and sometimes even deeper. But by and large, 80% of the time, if you're targeting your sea trout, you're targeting your redfish, snook, and flounder and whatnot, a lot of us are fishing pretty dang shallow water, which means all colors are visible in the spectrum. Now, the shades of those colors do vary. To give you a quick overview, I'm going to say right now that matching prey, match the hatch, is probably something that you've heard before. Of course you have. And most of us, when we go to the tackle store, which I just showed you, you get there and you get pretty dang confused because these things look like the real McCoy. You know, colors like Elvis's back, that looks like a pinfish. Flat snack of mine looks like a pilchard. You know, that's a really good looking bait. The skin series from Mirrorlure looks like the real deal. So many of us, we want to fish the real deal. The problem with the real deal is nature has disguised the real deal. That's right. It's made it invisible to the predator in most situations, and the predator has to look for the weakest bait. So matching the hatch is important. But more important to me would probably be number one, water clarity, because that determines, that's the particulate and just the, I want to almost say the thickness of the water, what they can see, how far away they can see it. That's probably number one. So you got to pick colors they can see and expand the strike zone. And I'd say number two after that is probably going to be match the bottom. Because most of us are fishing, you know, or we want to fish cleaner water. And then I'm going to say probably after that is ambient light. Depends on the time of day that you fish. It really does. Or the conditions, whether it's stormy or foggy or nighttime or whatnot. So ambient light naturally is going to be a really important consideration. And then I'd say probably lastly, the color of the water itself, not the clarity, the color. Remember, you can have clear water, and then you can have kind of a dingy algae green color water. You can have almost, you know, like the stained water that we talked, it's still clear, but it has a color to it. It's kind of brown. And then, you know, you've got the turbid water. We talked about the clarity, but it's kind of just but there is a color to it. It's sandy in color. So that would be, the watercolor would have a lot to do with it, but mostly when we're talking about watercolor, we're talking about variations of clean water. All right, so let's talk about water clarity next. That's going to be the next little segment, and then I'm going to run you through each one of the other ones. And then we'll knock them all out. I'll give you some scenarios. I'll give you some base colors you must have in your day box every time you go. And then I want to share with you a few of my favorites that always seem to work in a variety of venues. How about that? That's your 15th one. 15th one.
Well, this one had somebody try to take a chunk out of this one.
Sometimes the fresh water hurts them a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Takes the slime off them. Although this one looks deformed.
Yeah, this one something's tried to eat him.
Or a boat hit him or something.
Aw.
Again.
Well, let's keep him alive. Whoops.
Whoa, buddy. I know what you're going to say. The fishing is always good or that good in Louisiana. But that's not why I wanted to integrate that piece of the live footage into this how-to on color selection. I really wanted you to notice the water clarity, the mostly sunny skies, but no wind, so we had a lot of glare on the water. And then notice how the water looked a lot dirtier when you were looking down on it rather than looking through it with the GoPro camera. Well, that algified water really showed out with that chartreuse gold spoon, and that's why I had Blondie throwing that, probing those shorelines and those clear spots between the grasses for those redfish, and it's one of those baits that they can see through that color water for a great distance. So that brings me to this. First, I guess, most important consideration that I typically make is water clarity. Are you fishing clear water, stained water, or muddy water? Clear water offers up all kinds of baits that you can throw, but I'm going to just give you two examples because I want to break down that other stuff that we talked about earlier. So clear water, and you've heard this before, you can throw a lot of natural organic colors. So colors that mimic fish exactly, like this this is the Pro Series or the Clear Eyes series for MirrOlure. This is an MR17 in the trout. It does a good job. Clear water, that's a perfect bait. Or maybe use something that has no flake at all. None. You don't need that flashy feel. So this IU or shiner color that you would see at Z-Man, it's more translucent. It's perfect for clear water. So that way I wanted to give you a soft bait kind of idea and a hard bait kind of idea. Now let's move to that stained water. Stained water, let's talk about that because that water, typically the fish, the predator fish, are colored differently. You'll notice that their bellies are a little bit redder, their flanks are a little more gold, and their backs are a little bit more dark. So colors like Little Wayne, great color, really good color. I love it for stained water, tannin water. Again, belly's a little bit red or orange. This is a great color. New Penny is a good color in stained water. Shows out, they see it, they're used to prey being colored that way, so water clarity, again, important. Now let's talk turbid, muddy conditions. Well, turbid, muddy conditions, well, seeing through the water, the fish cannot see the bait from as far away. So some of the other senses naturally would be hyper. So you'd want to throw blade baits and stuff, and that's what you would throw. But if you're only going to throw hard baits, throw purple or black or dark root beer. Those are going to be good colors. That's a great color right there, the Purple Demon MR17. Awesome for muddy water. Or maybe throw something that's very opaque and dark. Like this is root beer gold with a chartreuse shrimp tail here from the Easy Shrimp line up there at Z-Man. Those are just examples of how you got to combat water clarity to give you kind of a baseline. Now, I told you that we were going to try to match the bottom, the water, I'm going to say the water itself. That's a good way to explain it. And then lastly, talk about ambient light conditions, because those three things are really important. So let me set those up in a box real quick, and then I'm going to show them to you. I'm going to cover that next. All right, because to me, matching prey, to review really quick, and combating water clarity issues are probably two of the biggest factors that are going to influence you. I wanted to cover those first. The next couple here are just ways to complement that. And I'm building it slow so that you can figure this out at the end. All right, let's talk really quick on match the bottom. What the heck does that mean? Okay, if you're on checkered bottom, kind of muddy, grassy, kind of everything, a great color would be a brown, something similar to this. This is the right stuff from Z-Man. If you're on grass, eelgrass, manatee grass, turtle grass, colors that work really good would be one of the bass guys' favorite, which would be green pumpkin. That'd be an awesome color. Or if you want to work a spoon or something like the watermelon crawl spoon, that's a great spoon for that clarity or that type of bottom. Let's just say you're over the top of sand, but you're trying to work close to the bottom. You know, your colors like, let me find one here. I probably have Houdini, great over sand. One of my favorite colors to throw over sand. So when I'm saying match the bottom, think of that. If you're, let's just say you're over mud, just plain old mud. You've got that brown, gray mud. Lots of times colors like black work awesome. I mean, that's a great color to throw over the top of mud. Or maybe you would throw something like Bloody Mary Sunday, something like that. If it's kind of muddy, clayey, smoky, those are probably some really good zones to match the bottom. Next would become, for me, would be ambient light, okay? So if you have no light, you're fishing at night, you start off in the dark. Let's just say you're feeling froggy and you got up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, you're gonna have to throw those same dark colors that silhouette well. Colors like duct tape and shovels that I have in my lineup. The Purple Demon, another excellent nighttime color to throw. You see what I'm saying? They're colors that kind of stand out when fish are looking up at bridge lights, dock lights, or just the moon itself, and they can see. They have to have a solid opaque color they can see. Let's say you've got sunrise, or you've got, you know, the sun going down, sunset. You've got that really low light, or you have thunderstorms, or fog is playing the game. You got to use bright, vibrant colors. So colors like coconut ice that's got plenty of pink and a nice bright pearl belly. Other good colors would be like Cajun Chew, where you've got the silhouette and the bright head. That would be an excellent color to throw in those conditions. Chartreuse, you've always heard the expression, if it ain't chartreuse, it ain't no use. Another one in those same light conditions that would work perfectly. All right, let's just say it's bright and clear. Bright and clear. I mean, no sun. Baits that don't have as much flake are going to work well. Smelt, great color. IU, which is probably got that color out here somewhere. I think I saw it just a minute ago. Or you could use something like Green Lantern. All those colors are going to be really natural colors that are going to kind of blend in, that you're going to see in crystal clear water, or use the real deal, you know, use sea trout, something like that. You got to have something very natural. All right, let's just say you have bright sun with in and out clouds, and you have that type of ambient light where it's shady, then bright, then shady, then bicolor baits. And you've seen me talk about this before. Baits like redbone. You see how there's a delineation there between the back and the belly? They can see them from so much further away. Something like that would be excellent, which is the number 21 color at Mirrorlure. Those are perfect colors for those scenarios. You got rainy, stormy weather, but it's still kind of bright out, you know, where there's those afternoon clouds. One of the best colors that I have, and I'm going to find it here for you, is dark and stormy. Now, many of you thought I came up with dark and stormy just because I like to drink that rum drink. Well, it got named over that rum drink. But actually, this is an awesome color with a very flaky belly, and that iridescent purple gets darker under certain conditions. Gives it that bicolor look. And the fish can see it further away, so those bicolors are perfect for those ambient light conditions. So we talked about matching the bottom, we talked about ambient light, we've talked about water clarity, and we've talked about matching the prey. The only other consideration, if you don't have any idea that what's going on, is to match the color of the water. So in many places where you have a little bit of depth and you're fishing kind of off the beach or in a pass or in an inlet, you're always trying to come up with something, or I'm fishing deeper grass or structure in the summer. Let's just say I'm fishing deeper grass for trout, 6-8 feet of water. Now you know those colors are going away. One of the good colors to throw that doesn't go away is green. That's right. Easy money, or the old emerald green in the old Mirrorlure lineup. Excellent color to throw in that. When I'm trying to match the water and want to throw kind of what I would call, I'm going to say it's probably the most neutral color you can throw and give you a lot of action, especially with pelagics and things like that, it would have to be Smoky Shad. Now this is probably one of the best selling colors that you can get right there at Z-Man, but an awesome color. So you see what I'm saying? This is something they can see. Another color naturally would be white, pearl. That would be a good color. Especially in kind of off-color, smoky, like chalky water. Believe it or not, it actually matches the water. But that is the last consideration that you might make. Now, we're going to take a break. I'm going to set some stuff up because there's some base colors that your box has to have to give you a starting point. I'm going to give them to you next. All right, you're setting a box up, or a couple of boxes. You're setting a tackle bag up to go fishing, or you're at a tackle store, like I showed you sodium fishing, and you're just overwhelmed. Well, there's a couple of base colors that your tackle bag has to have. You just have to have these colors. I have them in all mine. Green, if you're a flats fisherman, is one of them. So those colors I've been talking about, green pumpkin, watermelon, easy money, you have to have greens. You have to have greens in your box. That's a no-brainer. Second color you have to have in your box are anything with a white base. What do I mean by that? Well, colors like, this is called pearl blue glimmer. Now it's not solid white, because sometimes solid white looks a little bit, well, unnatural. It's a little too bright. Having a white that's too bright, unless the water is stained, is not good. But if the water's clear, this is one of the best-selling colors that Z-Man has. Pearl blue glimmer, I'm telling you, you gotta have it. Tying up white bucktail jigs. See how bright that is? That's almost too bright, but in off-color water, it's okay. But you gotta have that color. Same thing goes for bleach blonde. This is a color that I always have in my box. A lot of Texas guys love this color. They like it for chalky water just as much as they like it for low light water. But whites got to have them in your box. So greens, whites, given. What's the next color? Gold. Got to have gold. Everyone knows that. So colors like mangrove honey, where gold is a complementary color with a brown belly, green back, but primarily a broken glass gold. That's a good color. Got to have that tannin water, very pinfish-like. Golden boy, that's a good color. And it's not as bright a gold glitter bait as you would think because there's a ton of black pepper in this bait. Another one I like when conditions are really tough is, this is called Low Country Boil. Orange, brown, and a bright gold, flashy, iridescent insert. So green, white, gold, silver, or chrome. Got to have that. That's one of the 5 color bases that you have to have. Silver, like I said earlier, translucent, kind of muted a little bit. Smoky Shad, tough to beat, very tough to beat. Smokey Sardine, which is one of the colors that I came up with MirrorLure, that I was inspired by this Smoky Shad to make this. It looks a lot like a blue-black herring, blue-back herring, not blue-black, but blue-back herring. Looks a lot like that. So the bass guys love this bait. The saltwater guys love it around the beaches and the barrier islands. It does good. Glass minnow looks similar to this in the mirror glass that are all chrome. I mean, looks exactly like a glass minnow. You gotta have chrome, gotta have silver in your box. So now you have white, green, silver, and gold. The last color is kind of an opaque color that you have to have in your box. And those are the bones, or colors that are like bone. They're not flat, they're not super flashy. This is the Pro Series Fat Boy in the Paul Brown. It's got a little silver in it, but primarily this is a bone-colored bait, a very opaque type bait. Colors that I have that's a little darker bone that works really well is the Dude. That's a great color to have in your box, and a big color out west. And then Night Glow, or in our case, we've got key lime here. This is key lime pie. Bright chartreuse back, but for the most part, 80% of this bait is Night Glow, which is a kind of a derivative of a brighter bone. So those are the base colors I like to have in my box. Now, I'm going to tell you 2 things really quick here. Do not overestimate realism. It's important to have these real deal baits. These are the real deal baits. Baits like this that look exactly like the real McCoy. Take a good look at them. I mean, they fool any fish. And they work a lot of the time. But some of us get overconfident in the marketing and think that's the only thing we need. And that, because of all those conditions I've mentioned, you can't use them all the time. You just can't. I mean, this is one of my baits here, and you cannot use that bait all the time. It works a lot of the time, but it doesn't work all the time. So you have to consider that. You know, even these Laguna Shrimp, I love these things. They look just like shrimp. They behave like shrimp. They have the right coloring like shrimp. But sometimes they kind of blend in. So don't overestimate realism. But don't underestimate contrast. Because for me, as a professional angler, fishing tours for 12 years and whatnot, and fishing so many venues, for me, contrast is what appeals to the fish more than anything else because it expands the strike zone. So baits, and you've heard me talk about this in videos, like this one here, red bone, dark, light, bicolor. They can see this when this bait is rolling through the water, swimming through the water. They can see it further away. If that bait is a solid bait, you know, I'll try to pick one, or a more translucent bait like Smoky Shad. It's harder to see that bait back here. It's a lot easier to see this bait back here because the 2 colors kind of give it some contrast. Give you another example. Red-headed baits, lots of contrast. You can see them, just like my shirt. You can see them. That is a big key in fishing. The fish have to know it's there, especially fish that feed by sight. Trout, snook, flounder lying in wait on the bottom. They want to be able to see that silhouette. They want to be able to see that color difference. That's what makes a huge difference. So like I say, you got to have those base colors. Don't overestimate the realism factor. Don't underestimate the contrast factor. All right, we're going to go through a few scenarios. I'm going to give you 5 of my favorite colors that can fail. Next. All right, I do realize this is a long video, but it's the only way to break this stuff down. Scenario number 1. I'm going to give you a beautiful day. We're going to have clear water, mostly sunny skies, wind 5 to 10. We're going to fish water depths between 2 foot and 6 foot. That covers kind of everybody that's got a trolling motor to a push pole to a kayaker. And the season is spring. Man, that leaves a lot of opportunity. Realism probably going to matter here. Just depends on the time of the day. But just to give you kind of a handful of colors that you could be throwing throughout the day, or at least because I'm saying it's mostly sunny, you got colors like Pearl Blue Glimmer, perfect choice for a day like that. Laguna Shrimp, if you're going to throw a bottom bouncing bait. Creole Croaker would be a good color in those conditions. It would do a great job. Throw in the new Ned style bugs, sight fishing with it. Very, very shrimpy, almost crabby looking. Perfect. It will stand out in those conditions. Those would be what I would throw. Now let me give you scenario 2 really quick. Stained water. So we're talking that tea-colored water. Partly cloudy sky, so it's a little darker. Wind 5 to 10, gonna again fish that 2 to 6, and it's the fall. So what are we gonna throw? What are we gonna throw in conditions like that? New penny would always be a good bet, for sure. Opaque, for the most part, that bait is got a little flake on top. So gives them a silhouette. It's the right color. It's got a little bit of flash to it. Everything's right. New penny would be awesome in those conditions. Because it's fall and everything, Little Wayne, another great color for those conditions. Let's pick one more that would probably shine out in those conditions. I'm going to say if you were sight fishing in those conditions, if you had a little bit of opportunity, this hot crawl color where it's darker on one side, lighter with lots of flake on the other side, that would be a good choice in that scenario. All right, lastly, let's talk about turbid water. Turbid water, partly sunny, so you got some decent light. Winds 10 miles an hour, and then let's just say depth 2 to 4, because turbid water tends to make us all gravitate to the shoreline a little bit more so we can find a clear spot. And occasionally you will behind a point where there's some current. And let's just say it's early summer, so this is like rain runoff and stuff like that. What are you gonna throw? Well, you need something that's gonna stand out. Remember that water clarity stuff? Stuff that's going to be opaque, that's going to throw a silhouette, yet there might be a little color in it. Perfect choice right there. That's the root beer gold chartreuse tail. That would be a great color to throw in that. Another decent color to throw in that, even though I throw it mostly in clean water, would probably be that solid avocado green. It's opaque, so it's going to create a shadow, but it's got a lot of red flake in it. That might not be a bad color to throw in those conditions. Probably pretty good. And of course, Cajun Chew is one of the best dirty water colors that you can throw. I throw it a ton out there in Louisiana. Those are just some ideas that you can have in those 3 scenarios that would put you on the right path. Now, I want to give you 5 quick colors. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you 5 quick colors and close this thing out in this little segment, and that way I can get them all this stuff off my desk, because my desk looks like a mess. It looks like a mess right now. So let me take care of, wow, I left that thing, it's wobbling. Let me take care of this mess. I'm going to give you 5 colors I know will work for you, and then we'll close it out. All right, before I get to my 5 favorites, which I kind of threw a few variants in there, but that's something else. If you like what you're seeing here on Flats Class YouTube, come on guys, give us a thumbs up. Hit that notification bell and subscribe. Share it with your fishing buddies. I want you guys to become big fans of this channel because I've been doing this for over 30 years and I want to make you a better inshore angler, whether you're a kayaker, a bay boat guy, a skiff guy, a wade fisherman. My job, make you better. All right, let's talk about, I've given you, if we think now, I've given you a couple of things to think about, from matching prey to fighting off water clarity, matching the bottom, ambient light conditions. The color of the water has some significance. Gave you some base colors, actually 5 of them, that you have to have in your box, and you can pick whatever you want. I mean, go to Sodium and pick whatever you want. But here's the ones that I always have to have in my box, no matter what. I have to have green pumpkin, watermelon, or something like that. So instead of just picking one bait, I'm going to show you, stuff like this. That's going to be what you want to have. You got to have that in your box. This one's green, got a little blue in it. I love those colors that kind of blend in. You have to have a bicolor bait. And I stand by what I've stood by, Z-Man, for a long time. That red bone, pretty doggone hard to beat. But if you're looking at hard baits and stuff like that, the old school number 18, green back, silver sides, white belly, that bicolor look, I told you, do not underestimate how good that is. Another color that I have to have in my box, first and foremost, anytime I'm fishing stained water or anything, it's got to be Little Wayne. I came up with that a long time ago. I love it. Black and gold, we used to call it, so many different things over the years. But if you look in Grandpa's plug box, you're going to find black and gold. That's a fact. If you want to throw all gold in some situations where the ideal conditions are a little bit more ideal, throw it. You got to have a solid dark color in your box. It doesn't look like nature, but you have to have it. You have to have it for darkness. You have to have it for dirty water. So you have to have the Purple Demon. You've watched me throw this plug before. I've caught tarpon on it and whatnot in the worst conditions. It is the best color to throw in terrible conditions. If you want to get a variant like I've come up with the Dark and Stormy, go ahead. But that purple color silhouettes so good with no light or with dirty water. It's a must. And then lastly, for those low light periods, extending it, stormy, whatever, you got to have it. And trout love it. Trout love it because they're a sight predator that has to wait for something, and they can pick it up from a long way. You have to have pink. I did not say chartreuse. Now, you're going to want chartreuse in your bag, but I can guarantee you, in a lot of clear water situations, pink is where it's at. So coconut ice, one of my favorite colors. I throw this color a ton, especially you guys in Everglades National Park. And a color that I've come to love is this Laguna Shrimp color. I use this a lot as well. So you saw it. I gave you 5 of my faves, colors I have to have in my bag. I gave you some base colors that all of you are going to need in your tackle bag, and you can work off that. All this information. That's all I have for you today. I'll be back here in the next day or so with another Flats Class YouTube video. You guys sign up, hit that button.